it's a quadratic inequality. First of all, we'll move the 1 over and make it 0 on one side. Then we can temporarily think of it equal to 0 and solve. And almost all of these are going to be factorable. And as far as factoring ones go, this looks like it's going to be complicated, but it's actually going to be really, really easy to factor. Why? Because if we set it up to factor, the 3x squared only gives you one option that's nice, 3x and x. So because there's only one option that's nice, that makes your life easy. Then the last number is a 1. Well, that only has one option, 1 and 1. So far, you've had to do no thinking so far because there's only been one option all the way through. Now, we need the outside and inside to make plus 2. The only way the outside and inside can make plus 2 is if we had a plus 3x and a minus a 1x. Double check, does that still give us our last to be a minus 1? It does. So then our solutions are x equals negative 1 and x equals positive 1/3. So that is a review of chapter 3, because that's just solving an equation. Now the inequality part comes in. We draw a number line. We put our 2 points on our number line. Obviously negative 1 is less than 1/3. In this case, we would have open circles because it's just less than 0, not greater than 0. Some people actually don't write the equals 0 ever. They just keep the less than sign there all the way through. I don't mind that either. You can choose how you want to do that. That's perfectly fine. But now, we need to find out which sections are true and which sections are false. And there's 2 ways you can go about this. One, you can use test points. So that would mean plug something in a section. What's a number less than negative 1?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. You could use negative 2. Some people use negative 10. You're going to have to do some mental math. And you can either do the mental math here. If you plugged in negative 2, do you see that negative 2 squared would be positive 4 times 3? That would be 12. So here I'm just going to put negative 2 and do some mental math. This will be minus 4, and this is still minus 1. Does that make something less than 0?
No.
No. So this section, by checking that, we can call that false. There is a very nice number in the next section to choose. That makes your life easier.
1.
1 is not in this next section. It's not between negative 1.
Sorry, yeah.
1 will be fine over here. What is a very nice number in the middle section?
0.
0. Because the mental math is super easy. Is minus 1 less than 0?
No. Yes.
Yes. This section will be
Brain is not
true. Somebody's been in states that has that effect.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Put that on video. I'm going to be in so much trouble. Just kidding. And if you plugged in 1, we have 3 plus 2 is 5, minus 1 is 4. This section is false. But you can also, I sometimes really like using the factored form for checking. And the reason I like using the factored form is you actually don't have to figure out the values. If you use the factored form, you just have to figure out if the number is positive or negative. So watch, if I tried negative 2, I hope you can see that in here you would get negative 6 minus 1, definitely a negative number. And if you plug negative 2 in here, do you see that you definitely get a negative number again? And what happens when you multiply 2 negative numbers together?
Positive.
You get a positive. Is a positive number less than 0? So you could tell it was false without having to do detailed mental math. You just need to know positives and negatives. Notice when you try 0, this would be negative 1 times a positive 1, you get negative 1 that way as well. 0 is probably easiest though in the original equation. But if you tried a positive 2, well, this will be positive, this will be positive, a positive times a positive is positive, would also be, show you that this section over here would be false. So then, once we've done our number line, we write our solution. It is in this section, so you can either write it in interval notation, with round brackets because the values aren't included, or you could say that the x value has to be between -1 and 1/3, that is set notation. I'll write them both as we go through the beginning, but on a test or a quiz, if it doesn't say which way to write the solution, you can choose either interval notation or set notation. The other way that you can figure out the true and false part is with a graph. So we did it with test values. That's really important because when you get to AP Calculus, we do something very similar to this, and you have to use test values. So it's good to practice test values already. But another way that you could figure this out is thinking about the graph. If I graph y equals 3x squared plus 2x minus 1, and I found out that there was an x-intercept at -1 and at 1/3. Which way does this parabola open? Up or down? Up. So you would know the parabola opens up. And if you want to find out where it's less than 0, all you're looking for is where are your y values less than 0, and that would tell you that it's true in that middle section and not in the other sections. Okay, you can circle questions. There we go. 4, 5, and 6.